Hello scholars, good morning. Welcome back to the channel. This morning we're going to be looking at measurement and we're starting with the meter. Now the meter is a unit of measuring length, distance. The length of smaller objects, distance is really length, but I make the distinction to say when we talk about the length of something, smaller objects that we're measuring, we can use units, fractional units of the meter. And when we think of distance, what I mean by that is actually measuring from one place to the next place, right? From point A to point B. So that unit is the meter. Now the metric system is based on units of 10, right? Prior to the metric system becoming popular, we used to use the avoirdupois system, which included measurements like the inch, the yard, that's for distance, right? We used to use things like ounces and pounds and so on, miles. So the metric system has become popular in many countries, and it's a system of 10, so it's a very easy system to use. Our system that we use in math generally is a base 10 system, so the metric system very easily translates into the other aspects of mathematics that we do. So we count in powers of 10, in units of 10. So we're starting with the meter, and as I said, the meter is the basic unit for measuring length, distance. Now, this is the chart for the meter, and we start with the smallest unit of the meter, the millimeter, right? So if we count in, remembering that we're counting in units of 10, and we can actually also use the prefixes using meter as the base, right? Meter as a base for length. We can use the prefixes that come in front of the meter to indicate to us, to help us to remember what fraction of the meter or what power of the meter, right? So milli indicates to us 1,000. So a millimeter is 1,000 of a meter. Centi indicates 100. So centimeter is 100 of a meter. Deci indicates 1/10. Deci indicates 1/10. So a decimeter is 1/10 of a meter. So in other words, 10 decimeters make 1 meter. 100 centimeters make 1 meter. 1,000 millimeters make 1 meter. So we can use that. We can use the prefixes to remember. Deca indicates 10. So 10 meters make 1 decameter. Hecto indicates 100. Kilo indicates 1,000. So 100 meters make a hectometer. 1,000 meters make a kilometer. Right? So once you can remember your prefixes, those will really help you to remember how to translate, how to convert from one unit to the other, because we can express them we can express millimeters in terms of meters, or centimeters in terms of meters, or kilometers in terms of centimeters. So bear this in mind when we're changing from a smaller unit to a bigger unit. Like if we're changing from centimeters to kilometers, or meters to kilometers, or centimeters to meters. From the smaller unit to the bigger unit, we're going to divide, and divide by what? We're going to divide by a power of 10. Which power of 10? Look at the prefix, consider the prefix, and that will tell you what power of 10. Now we're going to do some examples. To change from the smaller unit, okay, so I need to change this. I had this twice. So this should read, to change now back from the bigger unit to the smaller unit, we multiply. So let's do that again. So we're changing from smaller units to bigger units, we divide. Changing from bigger unit to smaller unit, we multiply. What we're going to do first though, just to have an idea of what exactly we're talking about, we're going to do some measurements to see what do we mean by a meter, what do we mean by a millimeter, what do we mean by a centimeter, right? So I have some objects here that we're going to measure, and I'm going to use my ruler. So this ruler is actually, it's a triangle, right? But it has the units on it, so that's what I'm using. It's actually this one is in inches as well as centimeters. So remember, when you're starting to measure, always remember you measure from 0, not from 1. So you start measuring at 0. Alright, so I'm going to measure some very small things first. Alright, so I'm going to measure the sharpener. Right, so I'm putting the sharpener at 0, and I'm seeing where it's this is my centimeter units. It says 2.5, right? 2.5 centimeters. So this gives you an idea. This is 2.5 centimeters, the length of it. Now I'm going to measure the ruler, the eraser. So from 0, this is roughly 5 centimeters. So to give you an idea, this eraser is 5 centimeters, roughly 4.5, almost 5 centimeters. 2.5 centimeters in length. Let's look at a stick of chalk. So the chalk starting at 0, this stick of chalk is 8 centimeters, right? 8 centimeters. So if you take up your ruler or whichever instrument you have that has the centimeter demarcations, you can practice measuring different things. So this is 8 centimeters. How about a pencil? Alright, so this is an average pencil, hasn't really been used as yet. And this is telling me this particular pencil is 18 centimeters, right? So you can imagine then, I could have actually measured the smaller things, the sharpener and the eraser, in millimeters, right? Since they're just like 2.5, 4.5 centimeters, I could also express them in millimeters, because if you look at the centimeter, take up your ruler and look, the space between the centimeter is cut up into 10 smaller spaces. Remember, 10 millimeters make 1 centimeter. It's coming down in powers of 10, right? 10 of these give 1 of this. So I could have counted those units of 10, 10, 20, so 25 millimeters would be where the sharpener was. So I could say 2.5 centimeters, or I could express it as millimeters and say 25 millimeters. For the eraser, I could say the 4.5 centimeters, or I could say 45 millimeters. I could count the units of 10, so that's 10, 20, 30, 40, plus the halfway, that would be 5, 45. millimeters. Alright, so let's look at the stapler. So the stapler, that's roughly 19 centimeters. How about a book? Well, my ruler isn't big enough for the book. We could still use centimeters for the book. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my measuring tape. This measuring tape is in inches on one side and it is in centimeters on the other side. Right? Very useful to have. So the inch would be the avoirdupois system, still used a lot in dressmaking, in carpentry, in masonry, when you need to measure. Persons still use the inch, but we also now use the centimeter. So this is telling me that the book is almost 25 centimeters. So these smaller things, we can express them in centimeters. The tinier ones, we can use millimeters. Suppose we want to measure taller things, longer things. Suppose I wanted to measure the chalkboard, right? I could get my ruler and put it up against it and then keep marking and keep measuring. I could express it in millimeters if I wanted to. But more conveniently, though, I could express it in centimeters, or I could even express it in decimeters or meters. Because look, remember we said 100 centimeters make a meter. 2 spaces away. 1, 2, so that's 2 zeros. 100 centimeters make a meter. So, I could, if I measure from the top to here, I'm getting 123 centimeters. From that, I could take out 100 and make it into a meter. Right? 123 centimeters. Remember, 100 centimeters makes a meter. So I could say it's 1 meter and 23 centimeters. Or in decimal form, 1.23 meters. If I just want plain meters as a decimal. If I'm measuring myself, again, so I could just put myself up against a surface and ask someone to take to mark my height, and then I would use the measuring tape and I would get my measurement. I could express it in meters. More than likely I would get a decimal or a fraction, mixed number, 1 point something. Or for the really tall persons, really is, I don't know if could anyone measure, well, 200, yeah, I guess you have some really tall persons, would be 2 meters. I don't think you'd go over that, certainly not by much, right? So the most convenient measurement then for a person's height, I would say if you really want to express it without decimals, would be the centimeter still, right? So most persons would fall in the range of, let's say, 140, 150 something centimeters, the average person, the height of the average person. Now what if we wanted to measure places? Yes, if we had the time, we could put the tape measure along the road. If we had the time and if we had, the energy, we could go and keep measuring and measuring, and we could express it in centimeters if we wanted. We could express it in meters even. Places that are fairly close, like your neighbor's house, you could express that in meters. Down the shop from your house, you could reasonably express that in meters, or you could express it in a fraction of a kilometer. But really far places, like from your house to the school, assuming you live miles from your school, that would be expressed in kilometers. So the kilometer is for distances that are really far apart. Places now we're talking about. And we express those in kilometers because it would be really tedious to get their distance in centimeters, or can you imagine millimeters? Right? So, but you can convert if you want, for whatever reason you could convert. So if you got the measurement in kilometers and you say, I wonder what that would be in meters. I live 2.5 kilometers from my school. I wonder what that would be in meters. So you simply do what? So you'll be changing from the bigger unit to the smaller unit. So 2.5 or 2.5 kilometers. Meters from kilometers, 3 places away. So that's 1, 2, 3. 1,000, you'd multiply the 2.5 by 1,000. Or you could remember that kilo means 1,000. So a kilometer takes 1,000 meters. So if it's 2.5 kilometers, to change that to meters, you have to multiply by 1,000. So that would give you 2,500 meters. Right? Alright, so let's go again. Changing from the smaller unit to the bigger. So if we're changing from millimeters to meters, you're going to end up with a fraction or a decimal expressed as a decimal, because you would be dividing this time. Dividing by 1,000. If your units are in meters, which are a much smaller unit than the meter, 1,000th of a meter, right? You would be dividing to get. So just remember, going from this direction to this direction, you divide depending on how many places away. Going from the bigger to the smaller, so this direction, you multiply again depending on how many units away. So if it's, and usually the three that are most often used nowadays would be the millimeter, the centimeter, well, 4. Millimeter, centimeter, meter, and kilometers. It's rare, really rare, where you hear mention of the decimeter, the decameter, the hectometer. Not that you don't, but it's unlikely. But you still should know how to convert. Just use the table, use the prefixes, these little words in front of the meter that indicate to you whether you're going to divide by whatever power it is, or moving from the meter to the kilometer, right? So it would be 1,000. But let's say then the centimeter to the kilometer. How many places would that be? Changing from centimeters to kilometers. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places. That's 100,000. So changing from centimeters to kilometers, you would divide by 100,000. You would move 5 places back. And changing from kilometers to centimeters, you would multiply by 100,000. 100,000 centimeters make a kilometer. Right? 100,000 centimeters make a kilometer. So just count how many places away, or check your prefixes to tell you, and you can do your conversion. Bigger to smaller, bigger to smaller, you multiply, smaller to bigger, you divide. So we're going to be doing videos on actually adding, subtracting, multiplying the meter, units of the meter, as well as videos on the other units, the metric units of capacity and weight. Alright, so look out for those videos, and if you have been helped by this one, just drop a line to say thank you, and let me know if you want me to do videos on other topics, and I'll gladly do that for you. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so now, and take care of yourselves, scholars. I'll see you in the next video.